Hey, quick question before we dive in. Did you know AI can help you plan, build, and sell your digital products, not just write copy? Yeah. Most creators are stuck using ChatGPT like a task rabbit, but the smart ones, they're building entire product systems with AI as their co creator. And I'm showing you how in my brand new free live training. It's called Wait, AI Can Do What Now? The Hidden Tools to Revolutionizing Digital Products. It's happening Tuesday, August 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And trust me, this isn't another ChatGPT tutorial. I'm going to show you the 5 custom AI tools I use to create and sell digital products faster, how to train AI to think like a strategist, and why using AI the right way is your edge in this noisy market. Spots are limited, so save yours at empoweredbusinesslab.com/training. Now let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast, where strategy meets action. I'm Monica Froese, and I'm here to help you create, sell, and scale digital products the smart way, using AI and proven strategies to build a sustainable, profitable business. If you're ready to turn your expertise into digital products that sell and eventually grow into a thriving digital shop, you're in the right place. Each week, I break down real-world tactics, unfiltered insights, and bold business moves. Because building a digital product business should be sustainable, scalable, and designed for long-term success. Let's ditch the fluff, leverage AI to work smarter, and turn your expertise into a thriving digital empire on your terms. Let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Andee Hart, an entrepreneur, sales strategist, mentor, and host of the She Sells Differently podcast. While climbing the corporate ladder as a sales executive for a Fortune 500 company, Andee followed a spark of creativity into candle making at her kitchen table. That small side hustle went from a handful of local boutiques to a thriving wholesale business and storefront. What made Andee's journey so powerful is not just her tenacity and business savvy, but her countercultural approach to sales and social media. She's on a mission to help women ditch the sales anxiety, sell with integrity, and build businesses that thrive in even the most competitive and saturated markets. So in this episode, we dive into how Andee's unconventional strategies have fueled her growth, what it really takes to stand out in sales today, and how you can apply these lessons in your business. So let's dive in to today's episode and learn from Andee. Andee, welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
Thanks so much for having me, Monica. It's a blessing to be here.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting conversation because you do physical products where I do digital products. So I feel like I was telling you before we started recording, I feel like there's a lot of synergy there. And I think that people get a lot of value out of the conversation. And before we kick off, I always like to ask everyone to share a little bit about themselves and particularly your entrepreneurial journey and how you got to what you're doing today.
Yes, thanks for asking. And I think it's so interesting because I focus on selling and sales strategy, and I got my start as an entrepreneur with selling physical products. I started a candle company in my kitchen during the pandemic because we're all, quarantining at home. And I just needed something to keep me busy after I got done with work. I jokingly called it my after work therapy. Started giving my candles away to friends and family. And of course, my sales mind started churning, and I was like, I should start selling these. And so I did. And then, one thing leads to another. Us entrepreneurs, we never dream small, right? And so I thought, I'm going to start wholesaling these to boutiques. And I had a dream, I think this was 2021, to have my candles in 4 retail boutiques by the end of the year. This was June of that year. And by August, I was in 120. And I think a lot of people are like, that's amazing. How cool is that? Yes, but also it was overwhelming. And I do not recommend that kind of growth to anyone, especially when you still have a corporate job. So I learned a lot of lessons through failure in the midst of all of that. But fast forward a year later, I was actually quitting my corporate job. I had been in executive sales and leadership for 2 huge Fortune 500 companies throughout my career. And I left it all to pursue my candle company. And now I coach product makers as well how to do the same thing that I did in growing my company. So,
So you got into 120 boutiques while still working a full-time corporate job.
yes, yes. That is the power of consistency, I will tell you.
That
So,
is wow. Okay, so you did you ever have a dream to leave corporate, or was this just like an accident? Like if the pandemic had never happened, would you still be in corporate?
that's tough. I do believe that I've always had that entrepreneurial dream in my like just deep down. But I mean, everyone in my family is an entrepreneur. And I actually, in college, I graduated with the dream to start a dance studio of all things. I had a business plan, everything. I just fell into a technology sales job. And that was, that just, I started down that track and ended up loving sales. So that dream never left me. But that being said, I ended up loving what I was doing. I genuinely loved being in sales. I loved my customers. I had worked my way up the corporate ladder, but I was also just tired of corporate, you know?
Like the politics?
And yeah. And so I I don't think that I set out, you know, when I started making those candles, I did not set out with the dream of I'm going to grow this to something that I will leave corporate with. It was not until, I started really getting into all of those candle or the retailers, right? And started realizing I'm hiring other people to work in my business and I'm going back to my corporate job every day. What would this look like and how much more could I scale it if I was devoting my 40 plus hours a week to my product business?
What was the scariest thing for you about leaving corporate?
Definitely just the steady paycheck, I would say. Um, Having that and
How about
thinking,
benefits? I don't know if you would get better. Like when I was married, it was great having
yes,
because I always felt like the perfect mix was I was a high achieving entrepreneur, and then my ex was a high achieving corporate. He's also still in tech. So the
yeah.
benefits, I had the best of both worlds. It was like we had unlimited earning potential on my side and the great corporate benefits on his side. I miss my corporate benefits a lot.
Oh, yeah. The benefits for sure. Because now it's all on me.
Right.
Healthcare, I mean, everything, 401k. Um, I think for me, like initially though, like if I'm just talking about like that initial fear, it was like, okay, everything, that steady paycheck. I think the benefits for in my mind came like next, and then I was like, oh, and that too.
Yeah.
But it's all fallen into place. I think when you trade the time value of money that you start putting into your own business, you're like, wow, I was hustling after someone else's dream,
Yeah.
and now I'm able to put my skills to work in my own dream. So,
Are you an S corp?
yes,
So you pay yourself on payroll like I do, and then you
yes,
take
yeah,
distributions as it allows. Uh,
yeah.
so what did you end? Let me ask you this: do you have employees or do you just have contractors?
I just have contractors.
Okay, so these are these topics I actually don't talk about a lot on the show, but I think a lot of people are curious about it and stay solo, like in like the solo proprietorships. I don't even know what I think that's what it's called.
Sole proprietorships.
Yeah, sole
Yep.
proprietor, and then don't even move into like an LLC structure, an S corp, because
Hmm.
it intimidates them. But I'm always like, it's actually not that difficult. Essentially, an LLC is important because it is you have to keep separate accounting. Don't mix your personal finances, but it's like a protection mechanism. But then after you're making a certain amount of money, you can elect to be taxed like an S corp, and essentially what that means is a portion of your income goes through payroll, and you pay payroll taxes on it. And then the benefit of that is you don't pay the other side of payroll taxes when you take your distributions. It's actually just a great way to maximize your tax savings, is what I tell people, and it's not that complicated, but I have found even retirement I found not to be that complicated. When you don't have employees, you can have a SEP IRA and you can put 25% of your uh, paycheck into retirement up to, which is actually a really great benefit for an entrepreneur. So like if I pay myself 80 grand on payroll, I can put 25% of that into my SEP IRA. So that actually wasn't too complicated.
Hmm.
Health insurance I found to be the most complicated. I don't know. I get asked this a lot because before people would ask me, I'd be like, I don't know, I'm on my husband's, plan. I didn't have to look into it. I went through the marketplace because I only have contractors now too. I used to have employees and now I just have contractors. So I just go through the marketplace. It wasn't the easiest thing to figure out at first, but now I feel like I've gotten my groove with it and the I read through I finally figured out how to read through it. What did you do for your health insurance?
So I thankfully my financial planner, him and his wife, they have been entrepreneurs for a long time, and he gave me guidance on how to, and gave me someone to go talk to from, with health insurance. And so this was more of like a boutique. When I say boutique, someone that can go search the marketplace for you and then bring you different options. So they're not just aligned to one particular, insurance company. And so he guided me through all of the options. I ended up going with like a share plan, which was great for me in the sense that I've been blessed to not have, a lot of health expenses. And so that has been a great, you know, way for me to jump from having the corporate healthcare to a lower cost healthcare saving. I still have my healthcare savings from my corporate, so that's nice too. That rolled over, but just to have that share plan, and it's been lower cost,
I love
and
it.
so that's the way that I went.
A lot of entrepreneurs
Yeah,
I know go that way. So
yeah,
basically, I'm telling everyone there's two options. You can go to you can
yeah,
do the share plans or you could go to the marketplace. And even if it seems intimidating, once you just I gave it a day. I sat down, I read through the plans, I got a grasp on what it was, and I went with it. I do have a lot of different moving parts medically, so I didn't go with the share plan. I needed like a traditional insurance, but luckily
yeah,
it's not that complicated. And I mean, at first it can seem intimidating, but I feel like just a good thing to put out there because you're so new to this. And yet you're 2 years
yeah.
out and you figured it all out. So for people, I have a lot of people who are still in corporate that listen to this, and I know these are the things that hold them back. So I think it's very
Yes,
good when we could put it out there and say, hey, like it seems scary at first, but it's actually not that bad.
yeah.
Many people before us have done it and we can figure it out.
And I will say the two people that really helped me even before I made the leap, and I sat down with them and, worked through all of my finances and got feedback from them. Should I do this? And they had worked with me for years too. And so they knew, who I was. And one of them, my financial planner, I even went to church with. And so it was my financial planner and then my CPA. So having people like that on your team, even when you're still in corporate, you should have those people that work with you. They gave me guidance long before I made that leap. And so when I was ready, even though I had those fears, they were able to give me, this is worst case scenario.
Reassurance. Yeah, I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you absolutely need a CPA. My
Oh,
CPA,
yeah.
and I am very well versed. Like I read IRS code. Like I'm that kind of well versed, and yet I don't. I would have been a lot more messy had I not had my CPA. And I always tell people to find a CPA that's local because there's so many moving parts in your own county, your own state. Don't like I personally, I'm a big believer in doing local so that you don't miss any of those tax savings that you can save. If I did someone who was virtual, they wouldn't necessarily know my local laws. Like there's a nice state law that passed a couple years ago that saved me a lot of money in federal taxes, and who would have known? So
Yeah.
I love that. Now let's talk about what you actually do in your business. So the first question I have is why candles? Was it just accidentally? Like why candles?
Man, that's such a good question. I'm not even really sure. I think it just like came to me one night. I was like, I've always loved creating, always loved creating. I love to paint, love to just create fun thing, arts, crafts. And one night I was like, I think I'll just start making candles, literally. And so I ordered supplies and started testing. It's interesting because I've never been very scientific and learning the process. There's so much chemistry that goes into people think, oh, you just melt wax and pour it. Like, no, there's so much that goes into it. But I had so much fun learning and, just creating something beautiful that brought people joy, made your home cozy, especially at a time when we're all staying home. So,
So you
yeah, that's just been so fun.
so you started giving them to your family and friends,
Yep.
and then where was the first place you monetized them? You were still creating them yourself, but then where were you
Mhm.
putting them to monetize them?
Yep. So I started actually, before I even started a website, I believe I had them at a general store, which was like a consignment shop down the street from where I live. So I lived in North Carolina when I first started. I now live in Arkansas, but I had them at a general store and it was, had a booth there. So I had a mix of like some art that I had done and just different things. And so my candles just started selling really well. And that really set me into, okay, consignment's fine, but I really want the wholesale model where I'm selling them to the retailer first and then, getting my return immediately, not just sitting them on a shelf somewhere.
Okay, I
So,
have a lot of questions about the wholesale model because
yeah,
it is very new to me.
yeah.
But what in the back of my head, I'm thinking, so do you not have any digital presence for selling these
I
candles?
do. I do. I started a website, so I have a Shopify site now. Um,
Okay.
yes. So I started a website after that. Then when I started wholesaling, I got on Fair. So if you have any retailers or product makers that are listening and they know or have done any kind of wholesale buying, they will be familiar with Fair. And so during the pandemic, when your big trade shows like Atlanta and Dallas, no one could go to those in person, Fair really became popular because it's where all of your retailers are doing their sourcing and their buying for their shops online.
Okay. Like my brain is logistically trying
I
to think.
know,
So you
right? I
used to make
know.
these candles in your kitchen. Who makes them now? Let's build something together, something simple, powerful, and made to sell. I'm teaching a live workshop called Monetize Your Magic, where we'll create a micro app that your audience can use and you can sell. No complicated tech, no endless funnel building, just one smart, sellable tool built in a single afternoon. The workshop is happening on August 28th, and you'll walk away with a finished app ready to plug into your shop, your course, or your lead gen strategy. Head on over to empoweredbusiness.co/lovable to grab your seat. Let's turn that idea that you've been sitting on into something that sells and serves your audience.
So I ended up moving it out of my kitchen into its own candle studio. And I hired, when I talked about, going to 120 boutiques very short time, I ended up hiring an operations manager. So she did all of that and all of the fulfillment. She made all the candles, all of the fulfillment. I have since moved, so I've kind of brought it back in-house, and my sweet retired parents now are my product makers.
So
So, yeah.
I had this vision, I guess, that I thought you had outsourced the making of the
I
product. But
still I still do all that in-house. Yeah, I don't want to outsource the making.
okay, so talk to me about like the quantities we're doing at this point.
Yeah. So I probably at this point could have scaled well past where I am, but when I left corporate America, there's one thing I really knew that I wanted to do. I did not just want to focus on selling candles. I wanted to use my sales skills to help other product makers. And so my time is probably, 60-70% focused on coaching other product makers. And then the rest of my time is on the candle business. And so
Okay.
I really have other people that are helping me, create, make the candles, fulfill the candles. But then I'm spending a lot of my time coaching a lot of them are candle makers, obviously, but I have other product makers, jewelry makers, artists, different product makers that are saying, I want to scale my business, but I don't even know where to start. They might have a Shopify site, they might be on Etsy, but they're saying, I want to scale, but I don't even know how to get into wholesale. That's where I come in.
Okay, so it's the
So,
equivalent of, so my first brand was Redefining Mom, and we have a lot of products I sell under there, but I am a natural born teacher. I'm
yeah.
good at breaking down concepts, and so I do a lot of coaching and courses and workshops and stuff. And so it's very similar. And
Hmm.
the big part of keeping, and I'm wondering if you relate to this, do you keep I gather you like the creative side, but you also, it keeps you relevant, right? Because if you're still doing
Yes.
it, then you're up on what's happening. And so many times coaches, and that was a big thing for me too. I still, like, I teach digital product sales funnels, for example. I have dozens of those that run on both sides of the business, because if I'm not doing it myself, I, these coaches that go into coaching and then they're not doing it anymore, I find that they get, especially in this fast-paced world with AI coming out, you get disconnected real quick from your what
Yeah.
you're actually teaching.
Right. And I want to be inside the wholesale world where I am in my own fair shop, and understanding what fair is coming out with, what the product trends are for this holiday season, all of those things so that I can be, to your point, more relevant for my clients and my students, and they see my business flourishing. So
Right. Yeah, it
yeah,
gives
it
you
does keep me more
credibility.
relevant. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so before moving, I want to talk about what you coach on, and some of the, like, the sales strategies that you use and that you coach on. But I want to kind of wrap up a little bit on the whole what you do with the candles, because I
Mm,
have a few more questions there. So at
sure.
this point, how, like, what do I want to say? Distribution wise, I guess. How much is coming from your Shopify store versus you being in
Ooh.
boutiques? And how many boutiques are you in now?
Oh, I would say close to 400
Wow.
boutiques now. Now, I will tell you the amount that those order, some of them reorder every 30 to 60 days, and then some may order once a year. They just order the holiday candles. So, they are kind of all over the place as far as how much they order. And so, quite a few boutiques, I would say 80, and this has changed in the last year since I moved. I had a, retail storefront and candle studio where all of my manufacturing was done. I moved to Arkansas to be closer to family, so I kind of brought all that back in-house. And I have a pretty large garage, so I insulated that, made it climate controlled, and that's my candle studio now. And I would say 80% of my business is wholesale. So I do have the Shopify site out there and have a lot of people that will purchase direct to consumer. But when I started wholesaling, I stopped really focusing on growing the direct to consumer side because I didn't have the capacity.
Okay, but
Yeah.
explain, like, the difference. What is the difference in how you run the business if you're doing direct to consumer versus wholesaling? And if I'm understanding you correctly, one of the benefits of wholesale is they're paying you up front, a bulk order up front. It's not if they sell it or not, it's on them. Once they get the inventory, you're
Yeah.
off the hook. You've already made your money. So, like, what are the, I guess, what are the pros and cons versus direct to
Yeah.
consumer and
This is a
wholesaling?
great question. So, and it's something that a lot of product makers or like a lot of people don't understand because they think, okay, well, when I start wholesaling, my margins get cut significantly because general rule of thumb, when you wholesale a candle to a retailer, you are selling it for 50% and then your retailer marks it up to MSRP or manufactured suggested retail price. And so they are able to then make a profit margin off of selling that. And so when you are selling wholesale, instead of selling it direct to consumer, you're making about 50% less profit margin. But when you wholesale, what you have is the benefit of economies of scale, meaning that when someone signs up to purchase, a retailer signs up to purchase wholesale with me, not only are they tax exempt because purchasing wholesale, I require them to file a tax exempt certificate with me. So I don't charge them sales tax. They um, also have a minimum order quantity. So they can't just purchase one candle. They have to purchase at least $150 worth of candles. They also have to purchase in case packs. So if they want to purchase one of my Carolina Christmas candles, they can't do that. They have to purchase a case pack of four. So that's the economies of scale. So you're moving a lot more product, but your margins are lower. But you can also source your supplies in bulk. So I buy all of my cost of goods and my supplies to make my candles in bulk, and that drives my cost down as well.
And you can do that because you can forecast out essentially what you're expecting in your
Absolutely.
wholesale order. So, in essence, what is when you sell direct to consumer, are you selling at your MSRP, like what you tell your wholesalers?
Yes, I
Okay.
sell at the same MSRP, and that's just good standard ethical practice, unless you're running a sale, which is fine, but that's just standard ethical practice. Any wholesale brand should do
So,
that.
roughly, what is your profit margin on a direct to consumer candle versus a candle that you're selling to a wholesaler?
Yeah, so I'll actually show you one of my, I don't have the lid on this one, but this is, I sell two different sizes of candles. So this is like a 4 ounce travel candle. It costs me about $1.82 to make this candle. I wholesale it for $7.50. Now keep
That's
in mind, they
actually
have
a
to buy a
pretty
case
decent.
pack of four.
Okay, so that's 750 times four.
Yep. And
Okay.
then my retailers will sell this for $15.
Okay.
And I sell it on my website for $15.
Except
So
it's more one-off, right?
it's one off usually.
Okay.
So, and then the same principles from a sales perspective that you would use to sell digital products also apply on the physical products on increasing your average order value. I will do things, to help increase average order value
Like
on,
order bumps, upsells,
yeah,
product
things like that.
suggestions,
Yeah,
add-ons. Okay,
exactly.
so the marketing for direct to consumer is going to cost you more than wholesaling, right? And that's I feel
Yep.
like that's my analytical brain is going, okay. So I understand the economies of scale and why you'd want to sell in bulk and why it makes sense when you're selling in bulk that you can, sell at
Hmm.
50% off. But then I'm like, it's kind of like you're not responsible for the foot traffic then. You have made your
Right.
money, the candles are off. It's up to that boutique now to actually get the foot traffic to sell it. When you're selling on your Shopify store direct to consumer, you have to get people to go to the Shopify store.
Exactly.
Okay, so for since you do have the Shopify store, what kind of marketing efforts do you put in to get people there?
Yeah, so that's where, as I was talking about earlier, personally, I have not put a lot of marketing efforts. I could have grown the direct to consumer a lot more than I have. I do some SEO on there just to drive organic traffic. But paid ads would be an easy, low lift. Now that obviously has a upfront cost to it. But paid ads, you can also do obviously during the holiday season because that's candle season as well. I will do probably my biggest thing that I do organically is my email list, right? And so I don't even do a whole lot on social media with my candle company anymore. Um, I just really drive my email list, and that drives a lot of traffic. And I think a lot of that is because I have built up a brand following, and so at first, it was a lot of social media, and it was, Instagram and Facebook now, they make it easy where you can just tag your product and someone can shop right there. And so that is something easy that you can do to drive people direct to consumer traffic, to shop, and easy low lift strategies.
Do you find that having the direct to consumer store gives you the credibility to the wholesalers? Is that part of the strategy?
You actually have to have that to sell wholesale on
Uh,
Fair. You have to
okay.
have a website. And also, I have my Shopify site set up where retailers can create a wholesale portal and buy wholesale directly from me on my Shopify site.
Oh, so it's all done. Your
Yeah.
back end then is very streamlined, whether it's a
Yes.
direct to consumer order or it's a wholesale order. So
Exactly.
it streamlines your operations.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so smart. I didn't even know Shopify could do that. And
Shopify has an app for everything,
they
right?
really do. They really do. Okay, on the Shopify side of things, do you have any, just because I do talk about Shopify quite a bit for digital
Yes.
product sellers, do you have any favorite apps? Especially when it comes to like increasing average order value that you use?
Yeah. So, well, I love for the wholesale, I use the B2B wholesale hub. So that's a big one. And then I've just created this is just an automation flow. I, from an app perspective, I use like some SEO apps and things like that. And now I cannot remember the name of the app that I use for reviews, but there's a good app that I use there. But I've created a whole back end automation for myself that I share with my students that when someone hits my website, my Shopify website, and they sign up to be a retailer, that they will have I've created a database that I will give my students, and they will submit a form to be a retailer, and then they have to submit their tax ID, their, tax form, and this Airtable database saves all that information. But then Shopify automatically creates a wholesale backend account with for them in the B2B wholesale hub, and sends and it connects to my email list, my email CRM, and sends them a welcome email, nurture sequence. So little things like that I have found that have been even more valuable, that integrate everything together so that I'm not having to stop what I'm doing, go create an account, things
Do
like
you
that.
keep separate email lists for the direct to consumer and the wholesalers? You do.
100%.
Okay,
Yes.
what CRM do you use for that?
I actually use Flowdesk. There are better
Okay.
ones for e-commerce,
Do you
but
use
I have
Flowdesk
just
for both wholesalers and your direct to
yes.
consumer?
Yes.
Okay, so you did mention like that part of getting sales direct to consumer is really based at this point on your email list, but how do you grow your email list?
Yeah. So, one of the big ways that I did that when I had a storefront, I would get hundreds of emails just by having, a list at my checkout, my point of sale. Before that, I did a lot of social media. I did optimize my Google business page, things like that. I would put out some freebies. I ran a contest. Easy, different sales and marketing strategies that get people same concepts that you would do in the selling digital products
Mhm.
that you can relate to selling physical products, that will be like lead generation where people have to give their contact information to grow your email list. And so those are some easy, low lift ways. I found a contest was a great way. People get excited about winning candles. Um, I sent some products to some influencers and they did a giveaway. And so that was a fun way. And so just getting creative, thinking outside the box on getting your brand out there.
Are you in any big box retailers that like everyone would know, or it's just the boutique?
I intentionally chose not to go the big box route. I stay in indie stores or independent stores because big box stores will set your terms and conditions for you. I like to set my terms and conditions. So there's a lot of a challenge, good things, but a lot of challenges that come with being in your big box stores like Anthropologie or, fill in the blank. And so I love working with the independent boutiques and enabling them to sell my products, partnering with them. That is so fun to me. So I will probably always stay in that space.
I love this. This is nothing I knew before. I mean, like I could have made I could have figured it out, I would assume if I thought about it. But like this all makes sense, like why you've chosen to stay with indie, why you have the direct to consumer,
Yeah.
the pricing. Um, what is your value, like your unique value proposition for your candles? Like why would someone want to buy your candles to sell in their boutiques?
Monica, I love this question because I am like, if I had a dollar every time someone in the candle making world was like, this, I'm just going to give up because this market is so saturated. I would be rich because it is crazy. But this is the thing, every single one of my clients that I talk to, they all have their own individual niches within the candle making space. And here's the reality. The candle industry is growing like crazy,
I love
and
candles.
candles a consumable product. You're going to probably go buy more candles this year, right? Because you burn them and consume them. So you might look at it and say, yes, every boutique has candles. Or you can change it, that perspective and that mindset and say, yes, every boutique has candles. And guess what? Every boutique has multiple brands of candles. Why not mine? So, what I did when I first started selling my candles and pitching my candles to boutiques, I started looking at, and I would ask boutiques if they told me no, I would ask them why in a very polite way. But I got the like gold feedback from that. And what I found is that for me, what the boutiques that I was pitching to, they wanted giftable products, products that their customers could just come in and grab off the shelf. And those were the type of stores that I was pitching to. Now, that doesn't mean that's the same for the next candle maker or whatnot. But what I realized is that my candles, so I sell these tins and then I sell a reusable bread bowl candle, and it didn't look very giftable. And so what I did is I just upgraded it and did a brightly colored ribbon with a gift tag on it. So it probably cost me an extra 30, 40 cents, but I was able to charge more. And my candles started selling like crazy because they were beautiful and they were giftable.
I think I have one. Oh, yeah. Here, I use it for decoration
Yes,
in my
yes,
office. I was like, I think I have
yeah.
one of these behind me. Yeah.
And
Oh,
who doesn't love receiving
I
that?
actually gifted my right hand girl in the business that, and it came with the ribbon and the tag.
Yeah,
Could have even been yours.
yeah,
you know. So
yeah.
that makes okay. So it's so when you coach, I'm guessing a big part of your coaching is teaching people how to differentiate a commodity, essentially.
Yes, your unique selling proposition or your USP is what we call
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
because it's very similar. So one of the things I get all the time is so my very first digital product in 2016 was a family budget spreadsheet. Still sell it today. It's made hundreds of thousands of dollars, and yet you can Google budget template, budget spreadsheet, and download hundreds of them for free. So people would always come to me with the objection, like, why would someone buy mine if I can download it for free? I was like, because you're not buying, when you go download a random budget template on from a website, you have no idea if it works. You have no idea how to use it. I have a story that went with mine. I
Mm,
used mine to quit corporate to get our budget in order to pay off $65,000 in credit card debt. All this stuff. I have a unique proposition of how this budget spreadsheet transformed my life. And through that story, then people are like, that's what I need the budget spreadsheet for. That is the problem I'm trying to solve. So I'm going to, and I have a walkthrough video. Like you download it off of, if you're not savvy with spreadsheets, you download a random one off the internet. You're like, great, I don't know how to use this. And then and it's wild to me that so many people fear starting because they're like, well, someone else has done it. No, someone
yeah,
else has done it their way. You're going to do
exactly.
it your way. Like we all have a unique perspective to add to what we're doing.
Something else you just said that I think is so important from a sales perspective. You said, I have a unique story and a reason why. And the difference was, and this is what I tell my product makers all the time, and it goes that it's the same thing whether you're selling digital assets or whatever you're selling. But you did not say, I have a family budget spreadsheet and it has these are the features. It has, a place that you can put your income, and it has a place for how much you're spending on groceries and how much, and it's going to have these outputs on it. No, what you did in selling that is you told how it transformed your life.
Yep.
And people are able to connect with the emotions of that. And that's the important part of selling, whether you're selling a digital spreadsheet, whether you're selling a candle. I had someone that, we were talking about their product description, and he was saying it's soy wax, no toxic chemicals, cotton wick, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, no
Why
one
did you
cares about
create
that.
this? And we get down to writing a story about he created this specific scent, the specific candle, because it was his mother's favorite flower. And it reminds him of his mother. And we wrote that into the product description, and it changed
Every
everything.
one of the types of candles that, so I'm huge on burning candles. They're all over my house, and
Hmm.
my kids love them, although I have to be a little cautious because they don't know how to blow them out. But one
Yes.
of the things that my oldest daughter got on a kick for was a candle company that makes Disney scent. So we're a big Disney family. We've stayed at all the different resorts, and her favorite one is
Yes.
the Polynesian. So
Hmm.
I want to order these candles in bulk. My house smells in the summer like the Polynesian does at Disney World. And I'm like, and
Yes.
that is so, I mean, if they had just marketed it as like, they could have named it the fact that they marketed it as the scent at the Polynesian resort in Disney, it
Yeah.
completely changed it. And they could have named it anything. They could have named it any sort of scent, but connecting it to that core, a lot of us have core memories for Disney World. Like I do, my kids
Yeah.
do. I mean, we know how many Disney groups are out there. So they
Yeah.
connected their product to those core memories for us. And we could probably keep them in business with how many
Yeah.
we
It's
buy
a
throughout the year.
nostalgia. It's
Yeah.
nostalgia. I have another client that she makes just candles that are like military branded because her husband's in the military. And so they're all geared, and targeted for y- military branded. It's
Well,
beautiful.
yeah, like I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. Everyone in
Yeah.
my audience knows this, and I will buy anything. You could slap like our one of our slogans on a candle, and I won't even care what the scent is.
Yep.
It's all I will put it in my living room because it goes with my Buffalo Bills decor, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that's I do that stuff all the time. Same it's kind I can kind of relate it to like ornaments too. Ornaments are big with like
Yeah.
with that. Okay, so one of the things I want to cover because we're almost out of time here, and I really want to cover this specific thing. What do you mean by when you say countercultural sales strategies? What does that
Yeah.
mean?
So I find this so interesting coming from a sales world. And one of the reasons why I love teaching sales is because I went through so many corporate sales trainings, and there was always just this. I kind of jokingly call it like the bro sales strategies or the bro marketing tactics. And so I always talk about, countercultural sales strategies, meaning that not every, as we were just kind of talking about branding, right? Not every customer is your customer. And in typical cultural sales trainings that we have in modern day, like they'll talk about overcome every objection. Listen, not every customer is your customer. And when you know your unique selling proposition, whether you're selling digital products, whether you're selling courses or coaching or physical products, then you can really hone in on knowing your customer and knowing if your product is the right fit and letting the wrong customer walk away. And I always say this because when you let the wrong customer walk away, what you're doing is you're actually saving yourself a lot of time and headache down the road. So much
100%.
time and headache. And you're
Every time
yeah,
I've tried to work with someone who I knew wasn't a good fit, they created the biggest headaches in my
yeah,
business. And I'm completely on board with that idea that I am not for everyone. I don't want to be for everyone. If you're for everyone, you're for no one. I actually really
yes.
believe in that statement. And like there was a time when I was going through a lot of personal stuff where a good friend of mine said, you've become very muted in your business. Like you're not showing up the way you used to. Cause I am pretty opinionated. I'm blunt. I say it like it is. Like, and people you either love it or you hate it. And that's fine.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of like been my personality my whole life. You either love me or you hate me. It's fine. I've gotten used to it the older I got. But when I was not able to show up in like my true form, I just became very neutral and muted. And that directly impacted my sales because that's not why people were showing up to hear what I had to
Yeah.
say or buy my stuff. They wanted me to have that edge and that punchiness, and um, it really makes a huge difference.
That makes all the difference because you are showing up authentically of who God made you to be, right?
Yeah.
And there's absolutely like if you try to show up as, and this was the mistake that I made early on in my sales career. I would see someone else being successful, and we would call this in bro sales trainings best practice sharing, right?
Yeah.
And so I would try to like mimic what they were doing, but the reality is that that didn't work for my personality. And what made me really good at sales was different than the next person because I knew how to connect in a different way because my personality is different,
I
right?
yeah, my ex, like I said, is still in tech, and he's a super networker in my opinion. I've always credited him with he's really great at building his network, and the way he connects to people is his dad was in the NHL, so he's a huge sports fan. He can with whether female or male, he knows how to in a conversation because he knows so much about every type of sport, and he's such like a factoids. He knows how to build a connection just based on that. Like he finds their favorite team or something about like maybe their kids are in soccer and he latches onto it. And that is how he forms connections. Even in the
Yeah.
business world. It has nothing to do with what he's talking about in the business world, but that is how he gets people to like know, like, and trust him, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's all about connection, even when you're selling something like a candle. It
Even
is.
when you're doing that on like selling online,
Yeah.
that's it's the same thing. It's harder, but it's the
I
same
love
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a super fun conversation. I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, I've told you, I find the wholesale model very interesting. I always was intimidated by it. And now I feel like, okay, this is not nearly
Yeah.
as intimidating as I thought it was. So if people are listening to this and they're like, hey, I'm interested in getting my products in wholesaling and they want to work with you, how can they find you?
Yes. So the best way is my website. It is andeehart.com. I blame my parents for giving me kind of a weird name. It's spelled ANDEEHART.com. And I am going to have for any product makers out there that are looking to get into wholesaling, I'm going to have an upcoming challenge that I'm about to announce shortly called 5 Retailers in 5 Days. And that will be a great way just to get your foot in the door on if you want to wholesale and what wholesaling looks like. So that will be a great place, and you can find that at my website.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to link to all this in the show
Yes.
notes, of course. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your
Yeah.
knowledge with us.
Thanks so much for having me, Monica. This was fun.
That's a wrap on today's episode, but your next step starts right now. If you're serious about selling digital products and want the AI-powered tools, expert strategy, and real human support to make it happen, then you need to check out the Empowered Business Society. Inside, you'll get AI-driven trainings to create and sell digital products faster, a private community for expert feedback and real-time support, exclusive access to the Monica Memo podcast, and if you go pro, you'll get monthly marketing shortcuts, live Q&As, and 20% off of the Empowered Shop perpetually. Because smart business owners sell smarter, they don't work harder. And the best part, you can get started for as little as $9. The best business growth happens when AI and real humans work together. Ready to make your next move? Join us inside of the Empowered Business Society. You can check us out at empoweredbusiness.co/society. See you in the next episode.